just to remember that selling on Amazon is simple, but it's not easy.
Hi, and welcome to Your Selling Podcast. I'm your host, Nikki Kirk, aka Your Selling Guide. I'm a small town girl who took a big risk and quit a steady corporate desk job to travel the US in an RV. Along the way, I started selling on Amazon, grew a 7-figure business, visited all the lower 48 states, bought a farm, and today I am still doing what I love to do, selling on Amazon while helping other sellers do it too. Each week, I will share Amazon tips and tricks and bring in guests to share their stories, expertise, and tips on the platforms that they use. Think of this as a sit down with your Amazon bestie where you can learn, ask, start, and grow your online selling business. Welcome to Your Selling Pod. Hey crew, and welcome back. Today, I am super excited because I have fellow Amazon seller Nicole on the podcast. Now, Nicole lives in California and she has a pretty busy full-time job, but she's able to make Amazon selling work for her. She has so much info to give. If you are a new seller or you're looking to start out, she is going to help you with all of her tips and advice along the way. But before I give it all away, let's head into the podcast. Welcome, Nicole, to the podcast. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
So I know consider yourself kind of new to Amazon selling, but I mean, you've been doing it for a while now. So how did you get into online selling in the first place? And what did you do or what do you do before all of that?
So before Amazon, just in general, I work full time. I work in a government agency. I commute back and forth to work. So the actual day job takes a lot of my time. And it's a very stressful job. So I have always looked for other ways just to make a little bit of money on the side and just something to do. I'm always looking to learn new things. I would say I got into Amazon in 2018. Really, I started with private label. I kind of did it backwards. It was the end of 2018. I bought a very expensive training course, very expensive, and went through the entire course. It was a good course. Went through the entire course, had a private label product, branded myself, and did all of those steps, got hundreds of my private label products shipped to me, listed them. Everything went great until about a weekend, and I got hit with a patent infringement and shut down my listing. No more selling my private label product. I did try to sell them on eBay, got hit with the patent infringement again. So I still have a lot of those products in my garage currently and am trying to figure out how to get rid of them. And I've been selling some here and there on Facebook Marketplace. And hopefully I don't get hit with a patent infringement thing. Is kind of the goal. I'm just like, I'm going to do it until they tell me to stop. So, I mean, that was a very expensive lesson, because it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of money to get into private label and doing all the process and working with a supplier overseas. And so I was a little gun shy getting back into Amazon, but started hearing about arbitrage and retail arbitrage and online arbitrage. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to start again. And this was last year. So August 2022, I did, I still had my Amazon account. So everything was good. Got that, got it up and running again. But still being a little gun shy, I started off with books, with used books, and did that and realized that, there's some pros and cons to that. It was great as far as your ROI. You get a great ROI, but it's very time consuming. The boxes were really heavy, and getting those to UPS, and it took longer for them to sell. So, I mean, one of the things, just as far as a learning process for me that I've always done is because I have a long commute and I commute about an hour and 15 minutes to work and then an hour and 15 minutes back, is I listen to lots of YouTube. Lots of YouTube and a variety of people and kind of go off in rabbit trails. So I quickly got out of the used books scene and started doing more retail arbitrage. And so really that's how I got here and, eventually ran across your YouTube and really appreciated your style and the way that you provide information. So kind of went from there.
That's so interesting that you kind of went from, I get why private label, I totally understand why people do private label. It's something I eventually want to get into myself because it's a lot of upfront work, and I have questions about that part, but it's a lot of upfront work. But in the end, once you get it going, it's pretty hands off. And that's kind of what you're looking for, right? Since you do travel a lot just to get to work and work, obviously, full time.
Mhm.
So it is a great model. And then it's kind of funny. And then you get burned with that, and so then you go into the books, which is a slower, great model, but just takes slower, and it's more time consuming to find the books. And then you finally found your way to like a happy medium of retail arbitrage. I actually have quite a few people who they either start with retail arbitrage and to understand Amazon and then go into private label, or like you, they tried private label, didn't necessarily work out, and then end up with retail arbitrage. How much time did you put into it? And if you're willing to talk about, it can be even just like rounded out figures, but like time and money did you put into that initial private label, like finding your product and all that?
Oh, goodness. Uh, time, I would say it was about 7 months from, the time that I first bought the training course, going through that process, and then, getting my product and getting it out there and all of that. So I would say a good 7 months. Money wise, oh, goodness, it was close to $10,000. The course that I paid for, like I said, it was a very good course, but it was about $5,000 in and of itself. So I am kind of a let's go all in kind of person. And I thought this is amazing. I've never heard of private label. This all makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And so really just kind of threw it all out there. And I still think it's a great business model. Like I said, I'm just a little gun shy right now. So I will at some point probably try that again and, focus more on the patent piece because yeah, that one hurt a little bit.
I bought in around the same time, I think it was 2018, I bought a course to kind of learn wholesale. I think it was $3,000. I mean, that was a huge investment. So I can't even imagine dropping five, but I went all in. I was all like into it, and it it probably would have worked, 5 years ago, or no, 5 years before 2018, it worked. But brands are really smart now, and so it's kind of hard to get a brand to sell to you if you sell only on Amazon. So that just ended up like, I was like, I don't ever say like I've wasted a lot of money, but that was just a total waste of money. Because like at least you have it, you learned, you did the process. Me, I'm like, I put all that money and time and just came out with, didn't really learn a whole lot.
Well, you learned maybe what not to do.
Right? I have heard that eBay also issues those kind of patent things. So that is a bummer that
Mhm.
you can't use that
Yeah.
outlet. So now that you've moved more into RA, like how does that work? Because I know you're doing this part time. Is it
Mhm.
like part time, you still work on it every week, or is it more of like an every other week kind of thing?
I would say I work on the business at least a little bit every day. I have so whether that's repricing, doing a little bit of repricing in my Amazon account every day or, requesting removals, something to that effect, I will do every day. As far as sourcing, that is a harder piece and that, it's more time consuming. So I try my best to do it once a week. That doesn't always work out, so it's definitely at least a couple times a month, like every other week. I also don't like to source in the major stores like on Saturday and Sunday when everybody else is out there. It's just too crowded, too many people for my taste. So I would rather not be out there with everybody else. I want to be there first thing in the morning when it opens on a Tuesday or something. So, that's a difficult piece, just not really having the time, and I'm working on time blocking and trying to put it in my schedule that this is what I do and this is when I do it. Not just for me, but so that everybody else in my life is well aware that this is my focus right now. Don't invite me to a birthday party because this is what I have going on.
I have really this last year started to chunk out time as well, whether that's like this whole day is dedicated to this project or whatever. And it's really helped me manage my schedule and to actually have like time off, which is a huge one. So I am a huge fan of chunking out the time like that and just dedicating it. Do you do you work remote or do you kind of have a flexible schedule? How does that work?
No, I mean, occasionally I'll work from home, maybe once or twice a week, but typically I'm in the office. So that again makes it more difficult. And it is a stressful, very hands-on, busy job. So I can't also on the side, look at my Amazon account. It's just not possible. So that makes it harder.
Okay. That's I'm sure you have a lot of struggles. That's one thing that I've never, because I quit my job and then found Amazon, so I've never really had that where you have to go into the office and figure it out, which kind of sucks because I've always said like my job was a desk job and it was pretty easy. I could have done online arbitrage, like there's a lot of things that I wish I would have known. Do you have goals of like moving to full-time Amazon or anything like that, or you always plan to kind of keep it on the side?
You know, so at the beginning of this year, I decided to write down some goals for my business because if you don't make goals, you're not going to reach your goal. So I started, with small things, and I don't really know exactly where the business is going to go. Ideally, if I could go full time, that would be amazing. But I haven't really set like a time limit for that or even a time expectancy. It's been somewhat of a slow burn for me. So I think just kind of letting it do its thing while I work on, things like ungating or learning different information and all the problems that Amazon can throw at you. I figured then once it gets to a certain size and a certain potential, then, I can look at outsourcing and things of that sort and hopefully go full time. So that's
Nice.
ideal, but it's not necessarily a goal.
Yeah, that you'll be like, wow, it's really taking off. I could just leave that job if I want to, which is an awesome place to just have that freedom if you want to. Like,
Yeah, and it's having the full-time job, it definitely gives me some comfort because I know, my bills are still going to be paid. That's important. And like there's lots that it would take to kind of replace that income. I need to think about health insurance and all those things that also factor into an income. So, yeah, we're just going to see where it goes.
after the private label kind of stuff, did you, when you started back into it, have like a set amount, like, okay, I'm only going to give X amount to this business at the moment, or do you just kind of as needed?
I still kind of do just as needed. And I went to kind of research because I kept pretty good records and like did a budget and everything. Didn't put myself on a budget, but wanted to know what was going out and kind of what was coming in. So I would say I sold my first product on Amazon at the end of August, like the last week of August 2022, my first book. It was also my first return, which, that was funny. Um, and I would say so August, buying products through September, because September is when I started moving into RA, I spent with supplies and courses and products about 2,500.
Okay.
Yeah. So it
Nice.
wasn't a set amount, but I was like, I really should know what that number is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
what I
how
started.
was your first Q4? Was it like, did you learn anything that like, okay, next year I'm going to do this different or
I mean, I did learn a lot different. What I learned is I need to prepare sooner. I one of my on my goal list is also to learn FBM because I have not done any FBM. It does scare me. And I'm like, that's just a whole nother thing to learn right now. And my capacity for learning, can only go so far. Um, so I haven't done FBM, but I want to be prepared and know how to do that before this Q4. I had joined your Q4 Bolo group, so that was so helpful in the sense that it really did kind of open up my eyes to like a variety of products that I would have just walked by. And I know in my early days, I kind of got stuck in that thinking of what would I want to buy? And so it really kind of limited my what I scanned or what I looked at. So the Q4 group was helpful. Like, this isn't about Nicole. This is about what other people out there are gonna buy.
yeah, I have run into so many things like that. I was trying to think, oh, I did a Target video recently and I was like scanning in the coffee aisle and then all of a sudden I was like this coffee that I was just getting for myself that we needed more of and I was like, why don't I scan this? And it's like it's basically a replen now of something that I never because it's like if it's stuff for me, I don't scan it. But if it's like then everything else I'll scan. And so every once in a while I'll be like scanning something and like that I am buying for me and I'm like, oh, why didn't I wait so long to scan this? And then on the opposite side, it's like whenever I'm sourcing, it usually happens at like a Marshall's. If I am like now suddenly shopping for myself, I'm like, okay, it's probably time to call it a day. Like that's how I know, like
Mhm.
you're shopping for me. But yeah, a lot of people I sell some weird things and it's like you just gotta people buy all kinds of stuff, so you have to kind of get out of that. What would I buy?
Mhm.
What do I like? At the same time, though, there's a lot of sellers. Like I don't say scan grocery stores because it's too much product for me. I think it doesn't have those kind of defined categories. And other sellers love scanning grocery stores. So there's those parts of it where like if you like scanning certain stores and like go for it, like that works for you. I haven't been to a Ross in probably a year or more just because I don't know. It's just been a while. I don't particularly like Ross's. So are there certain stores that you do like or that you don't like sourcing in?
I mean, my go-to stores are typically Marshalls and TJ Maxx. I really like them. I will go into Ross occasionally, but it really kind of stresses me out. So, it's very disorganized and sometimes it's kind of hit or miss. So I almost feel like it's not worth my time. I don't do the grocery stores. And like I said, I really have to focus my time. Like that's the most diligent part. I need to make sure if I'm going in somewhere, it better be worth it. I want to like home goods more, except the home goods in my area has gotten so overcrowded, like with products. It is almost like a Ross, and their internet is just terrible. So I go in there and I can't scan anything. So so I wish I liked them, but they're not my favorite either. So Ross and Home Goods, not my favorite, but I do really enjoy Marshalls and TJ Maxx. And I feel like I'm getting to know them a little bit better. And soon I'll start branching out. I'll figure out, you always talk about looking for liquidation stores or other bargain stores. I do have lots of grocery outlets around me.
Nice.
And, being in California and I do drive up to Oregon quite a bit, so I'll do like a little grocery outlet all the way up the coast, which is fun. but sometimes it gets a little overwhelming also, and things change all the time. So I'll take a break from grocery outlet every now and then go back out there in a couple months.
Yeah, I am actually flying to Oregon to go to grocery outlet on Saturday. I'm really excited. Well, for a lot of grocery outlets, but I'm flying out Saturday. And yeah, it's such a good store because you can get, especially when you go to multiple like I do and like you do, is you can get that same, like if you go get one day you go and then you see that it's selling, now you can go to all the other grocery outlets and pick them up. But I do agree, like even TJ Maxx, you have to kind of give it time for the new product to come in or the replen of whatever. And so there's like time where you just kind of have to wait for more stock to come into those stores. There's nothing quite like that sound of a new order coming through on your Amazon account. But do you know how much you're actually making on those orders? Your Selling Podcast is excited to partner with Sellerboard. Sellerboard is an accurate profit analytics for Amazon sellers as well as eBay. With just a quick login to the app or your dashboard on a desktop, you can see what your true numbers are for all of your Amazon orders by the day, week, or month. I love to use it to forecast out how I'm going to do that month and use it for my planning. Sellerboard doesn't just tell you your profit, though. They actually do so much more. So if you're creating a private label listing or you're making your own bundles, you can use Sellerboard to get reviews for your product pages. Sellerboard is a robust profit analytics tool, and I use it every day in my Amazon business. You can try Sellerboard yourself, connect it to your Amazon or eBay accounts, and see how it works for you. Get 2 months free by going to yoursellingguide.com/sellerboardprofit. Again, that's yoursellingguide.com/sellerboardprofit. Try Sellerboard today and get the true profit picture of how your business is doing. So since you're kind of new, or I don't consider you new, but you are in your first year of selling on Amazon doing retail arbitrage. So what are some of the struggles that you face both as a new seller and then also as a seller who's doing this part-time with like a full-time job?
I would say, my biggest struggle is time. Time to learn new things, time to implement the things that I learn, time to go outsourcing, time to kind of refine my systems. My worst thing is prep day, and I hate prepping. It is so time consuming, and so I'm trying to figure out like some systems that can kind of make that a little bit more streamlined. But yeah, like I will hear lots of things. Like I said, I watch lots of YouTube. So I will hear lots of things on my drive, but I can't implement them or test them out hands on because I'm driving. And that's, not the best. I feel like also because I'm doing the sourcing part time, I have struggled with it's a hard problem to have, but really spending enough money and buying enough quality inventory. I have bought plenty of inventory that wasn't so great, done that, multiple times over. But working on, which was one of my goals, is spending a certain amount on products and, while I'm outsourcing per month, that way I can start kind of gearing what I should have coming in every month and kind of increase that a little by little every month. I'm not buying enough products. That's hard.
So when you kind of pivoted from both private label and then used books, like how did that look like? Because obviously you had big goals and big plans and you had to make a change. So how did that work for you?
The private label, like I said, that was a learning experience. So when I started back in Amazon and started selling the books, it was, definitely a smaller scale, but again, still going in full time, as going in full force, not full time, but going in full force. At the same time, just kind of taking it slower, learning from different people and not just one method, one person. So when I figured out books wasn't really going to be the way that I wanted to go, then learning something different and kind of expanding on that and going into the retail arbitrage. And right now I'm trying to really put my focus in Keepa. I'm really trying to learn Keepa and hopefully, learning how to do more online arbitrage to supplement the retail arbitrage just for sake of time.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think the saying is something like you when you stop learning, you stop growing or something like that. But it's you never stop learning something on Amazon, and it's just I absolutely agree of taking in content from all different people and all different sources because then you'll learn um, just different ways of doing it, or you don't get stuck in one way because like the whole price tanking thing, there's people that teach that way, and so if you're doing it and you're like, okay, that's how you do it, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, but I'm not making money, and if so, you just need different perspectives on things. That's why I like interviewing different people for the podcast specifically because
Mhm.
there's all different ways to do it. There's all different products, and it really works for you however you want it to work. So yeah, definitely all about learning and growing because the sky's kind of the limit with Amazon. You can keep growing it as much as you want to.
Right. No, it really is. And I would just say that's what I appreciate about you having various people at different stages in their business and even other businesses. So I think just hearing other people's like beginning story and how did they get started and where are they now and kind of how long did that take, all of that information really kind of feeds into me. And I try really hard not to compare myself to anybody else because we have individual stories, but it's helpful and interesting to know that really anything is possible, and there is so much to learn out there for sure.
Yep, I am all about like just you can use other people's success or mistakes or whatever as motivation to drive you and whatever your goals are. But yeah, definitely comparing can just get you in that downward spiral of not thinking you're good enough or you're not doing good enough and all that kind of stuff. But I remember when I was first starting, I was in a beginner group and it was some of the sellers were just doing, $20,000 a month, which just seemed so crazy to me. And I'm doing, $2,000, $3,000 a month. But I always took it as, wow, like that is a possibility that I can strive for instead of like, oh, I'm not doing good kind of attitude. So it's all about your just mental perspective and your outlook on life and just keeping it upbeat and like striving towards something instead of looking at it like you're not good enough. Do you remember or like what your first kind of chase was? And you don't necessarily have to say what it was specifically, but what was that like first, like, wow, this is working and I gotta go get more of it?
I do. It was a kitchen item from grocery outlet, but there were variations and there were different colors. So only one color sold very well and made a really good profit. So I went around to all the grocery outlets. That was part of my, drive journey to the various grocery outlets up the coast, also to see who had this specific color of this item, um, and bought them all. And it was kind of early on, so I kind of went in a little blind, didn't really know how to read Keepa, but I know the Amazon seller app told me this was great. And so I just went looking for it everywhere. And it did do very well and bought the ones that I could find.
Do you have any tools or software or even just kind of like business practices that you've put into place that make your business easier?
I do. So my tools, like I said, I'm definitely doing my best to learn more Keepa, like do a deeper dive. And I use Seller Amp alongside my Amazon app because it gives you like a quick picture view when you're outsourcing, has a little mini Keepa chart in there. And so just gives me a lot of information really quickly. And I would say, as far as other tools, I would say the BOLO groups, like your BOLO groups, they're the only ones I've joined. So I can't speak on others, but the Q4 and the regular bowler group have been helpful, and not just because of finding products, but really kind of connecting with other people and, seeing the various problems that maybe I haven't had it yet, but I'm sure I'll have it at some point. So just kind of giving me a heads up about things and just the information that's out there and the connection with other sellers, I think is an important tool. And Inventory Lab, I can't forget Inventory Lab. I've started using their mileage and their reports and things of that sort. So, and just using them for the shipments, that's very helpful to have it all in one place.
Nice. So, do you pack up your shipments all on your own, or do you have anyone that helps you besides Inventory Lab? Because I use it too, and it's a great help.
I packed them up all on my own. Yes, through Inventory Lab. I haven't, I guess some people out there, some will say, wait till you go find a prep center or start looking for a prep center sooner rather than later. And I just don't feel like I'm at that level yet. So, until it's too overwhelming for me, I'll probably keep doing it. Hopefully that's some point soon where it's too overwhelming. Because I like the idea of a prep center, but it's that letting go of control and really it's teaching me a lot.
Yep.
How can I find somebody else to do it if I don't have a full understanding myself?
That's very true. I was actually going to ask you if you're going to look into a prep center. So, yeah, it is. I was the same. I had a prep center only because I was ordering them. Well, I was trying to do the wholesale model, but I was ordering them and I had to have from a distributor that I had to have a truck. I had to literally find a truck service to go pick them up and then took them to the prep center because obviously I can't have a pallet in the RV while I'm traveling around. So, I had to kind of necessity. It was really scary to
Mhm.
hand over the control because I never see the item. I don't know that they're polybagging it and all of that. So I totally understand that control aspect of it. That's a little
Yeah.
scary to give it up.
Yeah, it really is. And I, I've also figured like my memory as I'm getting older is terrible. So I'm like, how do I even know what I bought if I don't even see it? Like, I need to have something that triggers me. So I figured at some point, and hopefully sooner rather than later, like I said, I will get at a point to where I can let go of that and will have a great enough understanding of my own business and the process to kind of offload that piece of it. That would be great because I hate it.
So, as a newer seller, I know a lot of new sellers struggle with the frustration of hours of endless scanning and feeling like you're not finding anything. Did you have that as well?
I mean, yes, I think that's inevitable. There was some of that. And like I said, when I first found your YouTube, it was like scan everything. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try this scanning everything business and we'll see how that goes. And so I did, and I think a lot of the frustration came from, well, not everything scans. I scan, nothing comes up. That's frustrating. And then I just, I really try to take my time and kind of learn things. You also talk about, take do it with the picture scanner and, because then the bundles come up and type it in and do your kind of manual searching on Amazon. So I do that and really just try to be patient with the process. And I've also, I think somebody in the Bolo group was a little frustrated with a similar issue just the other day. And so I'd mentioned to them what I started to do was just take it a section at a time. Like I have limited time. So maybe today I'm only going to do beauty and I'm not going to focus on the rest of the store because that can be overwhelming. Maybe next time I go in, I'm going to focus on grocery. And it helps me also get a better understanding of what am I gated in? What am I not gated in? Or, what's restricted? I just get a better sense of the product in that section and the store in general. So just being patient and kind of cutting it down in smaller chunks.
Yep. I totally agree. I remember I sourced Bed Bath and Beyond, which by the time this podcast comes out, I don't even know if they'll still be around, but I sourced it in the very beginning and then never again because I didn't find anything. And so it just wasn't worth my time. And it's the same reason I don't really scan Ross because even if I do find stuff, it's like three or four. And then sometimes that Ross checkout line is so long that I go, this profit's not even worth it. And I don't even check buy them after I was just scanning there. So that's kind of why I've put Ross on the back burner for now. But but yeah, you have to kind of weigh your time. And then definitely, I know when I'm sourcing and I'm not really finding a lot because it does happen still, that I just kind of say, okay, I'm going to call it a day and I'll go out another
Mhm.
day because it's like when you kind of start getting frustrated, it's not really going to get any better that day. Like you got to kind of step away.
Right. And like I said, I've also set some small goals for myself to work on getting ungated more. I did, some of the bigger brands early on and before Q4. So that was good. But now I'm being very intentional about getting ungated in at least 1 to 2 brands a week.
Nice.
So specifically, looking for those products to, get the invoice and get ungated just because it makes me feel better. So I don't have to go out to the stores or see all the items in the below group and like, well, I can't sell that one. So if I see things on a regular basis, I'm like, oh, let me go see how I can get ungated in that. So that's kind of been my focus lately, at least the past few months this year.
That's very smart, and that's a smart prep for Q4 move. I'm always like encouraging people, like especially during the summer when it's slower. Like now's the
Mhm.
time. Was it that you needed to get ungated? Like just get that prep for Q4 rolling. What is one thing that you'll probably do different this Q4 just based off of your learnings from last Q4?
I will start earlier. I will prepare earlier. I will make sure I have supplies, enough supplies, because, like I mentioned earlier, I do plan on learning FBM and doing some FBM prior. So, I mean, my understanding, and at least from listening to you, is you need to be prepared with your supplies for FBM if you're going to do it. So that's kind of it is, just starting a little bit earlier and thinking about things and start looking for the deals and getting all my supplies in advance.
Yeah, I even if you're just gonna if you find something in store and you're like, oh, it's lightweight, like I might test this. It's just getting that envelope or box or whatever you're gonna ship it in ahead of time, like before you list it. But one thing that I did this Q4 now that I'm stationary is I got a bunch of boxes on Uline from all different sizes, probably only 6 different sizes of boxes, but on Uline you have to buy it's like 25 is the least you can buy. So it's
Mhm.
kind of a lot, especially in an RV. But having those boxes even now because I reordered some and I still have some of the other ones. Anytime I have FBM orders, just having that on hand makes it just from like a stress standpoint, I guess mentally, emotionally, I don't know what you'd say, but like it just is easier. I'm not worried about all of that stuff because I just have it. So I do that's why I'm always like just have your supplies ready because yeah, when you run out of that box or something at the last minute. Luckily, Uline and there's other places like the Boxery, they'll deliver pretty quickly, but it adds that stress level that you don't necessarily need. And why I'm glad you're going to test it out and get ready for it because it's like as soon as Q4 rolls around, whether you're ready or not, you're going to find an item that you have to FBM to make the crazy profit that it is potentially going
Mhm.
to make because it's too late for FBA or a variety of different reasons. So you'll learn on the fly then, or you can kind of prepare yourself ahead of time. So that's why I'm always talking about it, like you said.
Yeah, and I mean I saw that a lot with you talking about it and Becky, like other people in the group. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do that, but I'm not going to do that right now. Now's not the time to, you know, try that. So I definitely do. It is on my goal list to try some FBM. So we will see.
Nice. What is a piece of advice that you would give to a new seller, someone who's looking to start or someone who's still in their first year, kind of like you are, of selling on Amazon?
I would say just to remember that selling on Amazon is simple. but it's not easy. So, really kind of being patient and taking the time to learn whatever little speed bumps might come up. And that's on every aspect, whether it's, IP complaints, really kind of putting everything else to the side, figure out how you respond to those, because once you learn it, then it's just so much easier the next time around. You have a better understanding. Make the mistakes, learn from your mistakes. The mistakes are inevitable, but learn from them, and figure out what you're not going to do the next time around, and connecting yourself with other sellers. I think there's so many groups out there. Everybody these days has a group. So really finding the place that's gonna work for you and kind of connecting those with those people and reaching out or commenting or liking a post or whatever that may be. So I would say that's really important.
I absolutely agree. I think community doesn't have to be mine, but if you find,
Mhm.
like you said, somewhere that works for you and like you're just works for you, get plugged in. Because if something doesn't work, if you're in a Facebook group and it's not for you, just leave it and find another one. Don't give up on it entirely because you learn so much and just have that support from people who get it that it
Mhm.
really can help grow your business. I also love what you said because I'm always like, Amazon, it's easy, but it's not easy. But I like how you said it. It's simple, but it's not easy. So it's way
Mhm.
more clear than me saying it's easy, but it's not easy.
It all means the same, you know.
Because it is. It's like the actual, like, you scan a product, you buy the product, you send, like, it's simple, but oh
Mhm.
man, every step. And Amazon is always throwing curveballs at us that you just kind of have to figure out on the fly.
Mhm. Yeah, there's a learning curve on every piece of it. And I think there are lots of people out there that make it sound, whether intentionally or not, easier than it really is. I think not as many people really talk about the problems that could come up or the speed bumps. So that I think is an important go in, eyes wide open. Know that this is not going to be as smooth as you would like it to be in the beginning, at least. So just go through those speed bumps.
Absolutely. Nicole, I want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'm excited to hang out with you more in the BOLO groups too, but just thank you. I love having the perspective of a new seller. So I'm glad that you were not too scared to come on the podcast and really just chat about what it's like, because I think it does give a huge perspective on people who are both in your shoes right now or would like to be in your shoes and what that process is going to look like.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you having me. I hope to do it again in, let's say, 6 months or a year, and let's see where I'm at then. And I think, like I said, it gives everybody's perspective, gives hope to other people. So we all start somewhere.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you like this episode, don't forget to head over and you can watch it on YouTube, where you can give me a like, comment, and subscribe at Your Selling Podcast to let me know how you liked it. You can also listen anywhere you listen to podcasts. Please, if you do enjoy it, leave me a review, give me a star rating. It really means a lot to me and it helps me hopefully reach a new audience. So I do thank you so much for that. If you'd like to be on the podcast or you know someone who would make a great guest, please don't hesitate to reach out to me at podcast@yoursellingguide.com. That is exactly what Nicole did, and I am so glad she did. Until next week, happy sourcing.